Welcome, dear learners. I'm Dr. Shamili Mandal and I'm back with the third lecture, that is, Rituals of North India, of my sixth module, Rites and Rituals. So, in this module and in this lecture, Rituals of North India, I'll be discussing about the various rites of passage, rituals, which takes place in the northern part of India, that is, the states of Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, and others. I will start with the rituals of Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir, as we know, is very culturally rich, and I will discuss the marriage ritual which happens in this state. In the marriage ritual, the engagement ceremony is known as Kasamdri, which frequently kicks off the festivities. It is the official announcement of the two families' impending union. Some members of the groom's family and relatives visit the bride's place to partake in a rich feast. The party brings clothes, preferably sari, ornaments, which the bride is made to wear by the would be sister in law. During the ceremony, the two parties exchange flowers and vow to join through a wedlock. A younger brother or the sister of the bride accompanies the groom's party with a gift of clothes for the groom. A puja is also performed called the Devakon, which is performed at the houses of the bride and groom and is an important custom followed prior to the wedding day. The family elders take the lead in carrying out the religious rites, which is a significant step in sanctifying the approaching wedding. As usual, both the boy and the girl are given garments by their respective maternal uncles, and the bride is supposed to don kalpush, means a variety, of headgear, and dehjur, which means a golden ornament. To consummate the divine union between Shiv, the groom, and Parvati, the bride, dehjur is connected to a gold chain called at that is offered by the groom's family on the wedding day. The groom dons a saffron colored turban on his head and a vibrant garment on the wedding day. He is made to stand on a gorgeously crafted rangoli in the house compound, where parents, relatives, and friends adorn the groom's neck with garlands composed of freshly plucked flowers, cardamom, and cash. A cousin holds a flower decked umbrella to protect the groom against the evil. The bride and the groom's hands and feet are, applied henna. And practically all young girls, women and boys do the same, while older women perform traditional songs. The paternal aunt applies bua. The maternal aunt cleans the bride and groom's hands and feet. Also, a ritual is done to fend off evil. The maternal aunt, known as Masi, burns incense. In the meantime, girls, ladies, and boys sing popular songs that fit the occasion as well as traditional deities. The Lagan or actual wedding is a focal point of the wedding celebration. The Lagan is a symbolic gesture that brings the couple together, and it is performed in accordance with the traditional Hindu rites. So, whatever I've mentioned till now is a part of the Hindu customs of Jammu and Kashmir, the Hindu marriage customs. There are other pre wedding traditions too, called the Krul Kharo, a decorative custom that prepares dwellings for festivities, and Menzirat, a rite that involves music and turmeric. This mainly happens among the other cultures which are also there in Kashmir, in Jammu and Kashmir. Wanvun is a vibrant pre wedding banquet that takes place prior to the wedding day, and the families of the bride and groom have the chance to unite and celebrate with customary music, dances, and songs. There is also a ritual called Ghadachum, a post wedding reception, which is customarily hosted at the groom's home after the main ceremony. The bride is formally welcomed into her new family on this happy occasion. The majority of the feast and the fast, are observed by Kashmiri Pandits during the lunar calendar, and that takes place during the dark fortnight, Krishna Paksh. You can say these are the calendrical rites which are followed by the Hindus. Both the dark and bright fortnight, 8th, Ashtami, 11th, Ekadasi, and 15th, Amavash or Purnima days, as well as the fourth day of the dark fortnights, are regarded as auspicious that people observe fast on those days. The fast of the first day of the bright fortnight of the month of Chaitra marks the start of the Kashmiri Pandits' New Year or Navre. A thali filled with rice is embellished on the eve of Navre with fresh flowers, cash, a pen, and inkpot, curds, a portrait of a figurine of a god, and dry fruits. The person who usually wakes up in the morning first, usually the lady of the house, sees this thali as the first item of the new year. She then brings it to other family members and waking them up so they can see the decorated thali before anything else. And what do they do? Why do they do this? Because they want to express a desire and hope that each family member may benefit from wisdom and blessings. People also swarm the Rangna temples in Tulumala, Akingam, and Lokutpur, Anantnag, to pray and adore Ma Shakti on the eighth day of the dark fortnights of the Jesh and the Asar month. Hindus have a complex birth ritual that includes worshipping pots, pastels, fire, and mystic figures painted on the floor. The family astrologer records the precise time and day of birth. A special feast consisting of sesame, walnuts, and sugar fried in oil is prepared and distributed to the family and friends on the fourth day of the childbirth in Jammu and Kashmir. Tel Panjiri is the name of this. The mother's parents deliver some special cuisine to their daughter's home on the same day. Also, the Sundar Snan is conducted on the seventh day. The house is swept and the bed is made again on the 11th day. In a ritual known as Kahanater, the Brahmin family is summoned, and the mother purifies herself by consuming the cow's five byproducts: milk, butter, ghee, dung, and urine. This is a rite of passage, we can say, the transition of the child from the newborn into the household. On this day also, to ward off evil, pieces of paper or boards are burned in an earthen dish. The baby's paternal aunts are given 7 platters of special cuisine. It only happens for the ladies, and that's actually very good. On this day, the mother's parents bring a wife's basket or filled with caches for the newborn, its parents, and grandparents, as well as clothes, sugar, spices. The child's horoscope, called Zatuk, is cast by the astrologers, and the ritual known as Manitir is observed when the kid is 1 month old. Therefore, there are, rituals in every month, more or less we can say every month or day after the child is born. The Zarakasa ceremony takes place in the third year, following the thread ritual known as Mekhal or Yagkopovit, which is celebrated when a male kid reaches the age of 7. The youngster is regarded as a true Brahmin. We can understand that all these rituals I am discussing is a part of a Brahmin household in Jammu and Kashmir. This is regarded as the start of Brahmachari life, which is the first phase of Hindu life in which wisdom and knowledge are achieved. The youngster is then instructed to say the Gayatri Mantra every morning after taking a bath, after the family Purohit asks him to. 64 deities are invoked for protection by the household priest. While the women chant around him and coins are thrown over his head, the youngster stands atop a mysterious figure that has been drawn on the ground. After that, he is brought to the river bank to participate in his first sandhya or a prayer ceremony. The death rituals of Jammu and Kashmir are equally interesting. A person's mortal remains are washed away in the water as they pass away, and cotton buds are inserted into the person's nostrils and ears, and his lips are touched by a coin. A white shroud is wrapped over the entire body, which is very common in all the death rituals we have. Four people carry them to the cremation site, and friends, family members visit the cremation site to collect the ashes on the fourth day of the cremation, called Eskar. A portion of it is placed in an earthen pitcher and transported to Haridwar. On the 10th day, the Diki's sons, family members, and the Purohit visit a river bank and conduct a Shraddh, which is also very common. And the heads are shaved off the sons. Under the direction of a Purohit, the boys and daughters undertake a complex Shraddh on the 11th day. The rite concludes with Ahuti being offered to Agni. And the daughter also prepares meals for the brothers' families and pay dakshina to the Purohit on this day. We can say that this is, a ritual for the departed soul to go to the other world. Another rites of passage, as mentioned by our anthropologist. Next, I am going to talk about the rituals from Uttarakhand. The and rituals in Uttarakhand, they possess a distinct flavor and blend of culture. A childbirth in any region is seen as auspicious. For a few days after giving birth, the woman is kept apart for all purposes until a puja is done. On the fifth day of the birth of a child, the mother and child are given a bath, followed by puja and singing of traditional songs. This event is also celebrated on the sixth day of a childbirth. It's a day long event and it consists of decorating the house with traditional ipans and other things, singing traditional Kumauni songs, followed by lunch. It is also celebrated in the ninth day of the child's birth. Basically, same as on the fifth and the sixth day. Another fortunate day is the Namkaran or the christening of the child. For both girls and boys, the Namkaran is planned on the 11th day of birth. Later, when a kid is 3 or 5 or 7, a different ceremony known as Chudakaram is enthusiastically performed. In this ceremony, the child's head is shaved off and is introduced to school by having to write a few letters on a wooden board called a takti. In accordance with the scriptures read by the Purohit, a special puja and feast are organized on this occasion. The Shastras are followed meticulously when performing funeral rites, and as I have said earlier, they are combining the folk rites also. So, now our rites of passage, our calendrical rites, our life cycle rites, they have all became a combination and influence of the Shastric rituals and the folk rituals. When a young person who is single passes away, their body is typically buried rather than cremated. The entire village, or caste group impacted observes a week of mourning, and the body of a married adult is burned. 13 days of specific mourning may be observed, followed by a puja known as Terveen. And in the case of an elderly man, a feast, Bursi, is done. A feast is given. Barsi, a feast and puja, may also be held after a year. For a year, the family in question does not have a marriage ceremony, and the village does not celebrate any festivals in remembrance of the deceased. You can understand and you can feel how bonded they are, how the community are connected to each other, that they all take part in the mourning of a certain person throughout the village. In terms of traditions and customs, marriages are typically prearranged in this part of India. After the girl has been chosen, additional discussions are held based on how well the prospective bride and groom's horoscopes will fit. Here also, we require a purohit, a bride, and also, they are given when the proposal is actually accepted. Tika or a vermilion is changed at the potential bride's home in a brief ceremony. A necklace is also given in the engagement ceremony. A nishan or a white flag that symbolizes the bridegroom is traditionally flown at the head of the marriage procession. There's also a local band who kind of plays during the barat, and then there's a palki in white in which the groom is carried. Another red flag symbolizing the bride is carried by the final man in the marriage procession. A feast is served, and the bride is given a nut or a nose ring at a predetermined auspicious moment at the nut ceremony. Also, there is Bedi, where the betrothal ritual is held the following day. There is no Gauna system in Uttarakhand. And what is Gauna? The second marriage. Means the bride is married earlier and after reaching a certain age, she goes to the husband's house and is married again. Kind of a remarriage happens between the same old couple. But here in Uttarakhand, there is no Gauna. And but once again, immediately after the marriage, the bridegroom is required to come to the house of the bride and take her to this house on another auspicious day. Thereafter, the marriage is considered to be finally solemnized. Now, I'm going to discuss about the rituals from Punjab. A number of traditions and procedures are placed in prior to the child's birth that are intended to protect both the mother and the child. There are also prenatal ceremonies which are common, particularly for new moms. They are also given herbal treatments and particular foods that will help them throughout their pregnancy. To ask for blessings for the mother and the child, mainly in Sikh houses, especially Sikhism based ones, they perform a unique prayer called Sukhmani Sahib, a holy prayer taken from the Guru Granth Sahib. In these customary practices, the expectant's mother's hands and feet are painted with henna and the turmeric paste is applied to improve appearance and health, both of which are thought to bring blessings and good fortune. After the delivery, or you can say the birth of the child, a number of customs are carried out to guarantee the mother and the child's well being. The first feeding ritual, known as Annaprashan, is often performed when the infant is 6 months old. For the first time, the infant is given solid food. This custom is seen very important. You know why? Because it transforms the infant into a bigger child actually. From an infant, we can say. We have rites of passage from a newly born child to a bit grown child, and now we have the infant to a more bigger child. Usually, the maternal grandma feeds the infant and offers prayer for its health and welfare. The infant is frequently bathed in sacred water known as jandi and chana, and in certain rural regions, an extra rite is carried out in which the infant is covered with turmeric to cleanse and protect them. I said the name jandi and chana. Similar to Hinduism, the sixth ritual of death is how they do it. Sorry. Similar to Hinduism, the Sikhs prepare the deceased body by bathing it and dressing it in plain, clean clothing after death. White fabric is traditionally used by Sikhs too, as a sign of purity. They recite the Gurbani when a person passes away, which are passages from the Guru Granth Sahib, the sacred book of Sikhism. To help the soul find peace and improve its standing in the afterlife, it is customary to recite holy songs like Japji Sahib and Reheras Sahib. The closest family members lead the sombre procession that carries the body to the cremation site. Usually, the family and friends follow the body of a wooden stretcher called a palki, while singing songs like Satnam Wahaguru that express serenity and divine love. Sikhs, like Hindus, burn their dead. As the body is placed on the funeral pyre, family members, as I said, they recite the Waheguru, the Sikhism term for God, as a part of the cremation ceremony, which is carried out with the same reverence and respect. A Sikh religious leader known as Granthi is frequently asked to lead the prayers in order to assist the deceased spirits as it travels to the afterlife. In line with Sikh principles of selfless service and community, a langar, which is a community kitchen, is often organized, where free meals are served to those who attend the ceremony. This is done in honor of the deceased and to foster a sense of community solidarity. In Punjab, there is a pre-marital ritual called the chunni, which is a crucial component of pre-wedding rites, especially in Sikh and Hindu households. A red chunni or a scarf or veil is thrown over the bride's head as a sign of a new life and honor, and is one of the present given by the groom's family to the bride's house. It represents the bride's official adoption into the groom's family. In addition to receiving presents, clothing, and jewelry, the bride's family frequently bestows blessings during the ritual. The groom's home is typically the location of the tikka ceremony. As a sign of respect and goodwill, the bride's family also receives financial and confectionery gifts from the groom's family. And here, this is how the marriage is solemnized. Now, I'll talk about the rituals of Haryana. In Haryana, marriage rituals like pithi lagana, that is, applying turmeric paste on the bride, bhat nyotna, that is, the bride or the groom's mother inviting her brother to bless her child, sat fere or shaptapadi, taking 7 sacred vows around the fire, the vidai, the bidding the farewell, the bride, and Griha Pravesh, groom's mother welcoming the bride to her new home, have existed since ancient times, and it emphasizes the continuity of cultural heritage. In addition, rituals like Jaimala, that is, the exchange of wedding garlands, Ghara Gharoli, that is, bringing well water in an earthen pot, and Kalire, which the bride shakes her kalire tied on her bangles over the heads of unmarried girls, have deep historical significance rooted in ancient Hindu customs. On the wedding day, the groom leaves his home for the wedding venue. This is known as Barat Nikasi. Before leaving, elders from his family put a ceremonial tilak on his forehead. The procession will have the relatives of the groom dancing and singing ceremonial songs. Haryana has a tradition of joint families. Thus, weddings are a big gathering of family members, extended families, and the broader community. Many women join in to sing bhajans, that are the devotional songs, or the spiritual songs, jakri, or folk songs like ragni, and to perform traditional dances like ghumar. Also, many people in Haryana observe religious fast. I have mentioned the marriage ritual. Now I'll be talking about the religious fast, which is observed by many people in Haryana on certain days of the months or year, particularly for spiritual purification to seek blessings. And they have the common vrats which are followed like throughout India, the Ekadashi, the Navratri, and the other vrats. Now, I'll be talking about the rituals from Himachal Pradesh. In Himachal Pradesh, a distinctive tradition known as Sukud is observed in the Kinnor region. The gods bring their palanquins inside their dwellings when a boy is born. This is what the people believe. The locals are treated to a lavish feast that includes delectable food and alcohol. In certain instances, this event may also involve the sacrifice of a goat. The mother is sequestered in a different room for the birthing process. She might be, staying in a cattle manor called a khud in tribal places. The first time the father sees the child and when the newborn is born, the first time the father sees the child and when the newborn is given ghutti, a customary tonic, are two other significant rituals. It is believed that the child inherits the temperament of the person who administers the first ghutti dose. So, this role is given to an exceptionally good natured family member. The cleaning up event, called Guntar, is joyfully celebrated following the 20 day Sutak period. Every member, young and old, they have delectables and they taste a mixture of curd, sugar, gangajal that is sprinkled over every article of clothing in the house during the ceremony. And after a kid is born, a nutritious mixture is made for the mother. During this occasion, special candies called sunds are made and given to the close family members. Gur, jaggery, and ghee, that is refined butter, make up this mixture. It is given to the new mother as food and drink help her to recover from the arduous process of giving birth. A midwife holding a silver coin or other silver object performs the act of cutting the umbilical cord in Himachal Pradesh. Along with a symbolic gift of 1 rupee, family members and well wishers participate in the celebration of the birth by presenting leaves. The kid is also given the first taste of cereal when they are 7 months old, and it is called khirpu. And this is a very important ritual. The infant is fed with a silver object. that resembles a blade of grass. Funeral customs in Himachal Pradesh share similarities with those of northern India, but are unique in their own way. During the procession towards the final resting place, various stops are made along the way. At these stops, stones and leaves are placed in honor of the departed soul, signifying a connection between the physical and spiritual realms. At the midpoint of this somber journey, a significant ceremony happens called the Adhmargi, which takes place, and it adds another layer of cultural depth to the funeral customs. Before the rite of cremation, a ritual called Pinddan is also observed. It involves the feeding of balls of cooked rice, sesame seeds, and curds to birds and elements in the name of the departed. There's also Lakripana, which is the considered auspicious to add fuelwood. Fuelwood is actually Lakripana to the pyre, ensuring a proper send off for the departed. This period observes as Patak for close relatives. Patak or Patak, whatever you say, involves abstaining from certain non vegetarian foods. The 10th day is a significant juncture. On this day, the clothes are washed, the kapra dhulai, in the morning. Additionally, the holy Garud Puran is recited by a Purohit or a Churji, adding a spiritual dimension to the customs. And then the Kriya Karma happens in a ceremony called Sola, and this event involves the provision of food for relatives, friends, and villagers. Also, there are three notable customs related to the passing of a person in Kinnor. Dubant. In this practice, the deceased body is ceremoniously drowned near a river, underscoring the region's unique connection to water and nature. Bhakan. A different approach is taken as the deceased body is reverently placed in an open field. And the Fukant. The ritual of burning the deceased body echoes more common practices. Now, I'll talk you about the rituals of Uttar Pradesh. The calendrical rites and commemorative rites of this state is unique, as two of the most famous Vrat rituals are Tej and Karwa Chauth, which are followed in this state. They are, as I said, commemorative rites or calendrical rites. Tej is an important and vibrant festival celebrated in Uttar Pradesh, especially by women, to honor goddess Parvati and her reunion with Lord Shiv. The festival holds religious and cultural significance, symbolizing marital bliss, well being, and prosperity. The women stay fast for the whole day. It's called, Nirjala, means they will not even consume water. And there are different types of Tej. The most widely is Haryali Tej, known as Sawan ki Tej, and also sometimes Kajri Tej. Greenery, that is symbolizing the season of rain, is used for decoration, and swings are set up in the courtyards. The day starts with early morning prayers to Goddess Parvati and Lord Shiva. There are also folk songs called Tej Geet, which is a part of this ritual celebration. The women wear new clothes, often in green, red, or yellow shades, symbolizing the lushness of the season. The songs, the Tej Geet, are often in the local dialect, expressing themes of love, longing, and marital devotion, recounting the tales of Goddess Parvati and Lord Shiv. Women receive bangles as gifts, which symbolize prosperity. It's just not a religious occasion, but a festival that brings women together, allowing them to bond over common prayers and celebrations. Karwa Chauth is another most widely observed and significant festivals in Uttar Pradesh and other parts of northern India. This also holds immense cultural and religious significance. Women observe a strict fast for the well being, longevity, and prosperity of their husbands. The ritual is full of customs, devotion, and it is observed on the fourth day of the Kartik month, means in November or October, according to the Hindu lunar calendar. The name Karwa Chauth comes from the word Karwa, meaning an earthen pot, and Chauth, meaning the fourth day. Women buy new clothes, jewelry, and all the necessary items, and a karwa, that is a pot, a sieve, and offers prasad and lights clay lamps along with sweets. The karwa is often filled with water, wheat, and other ingredients, and this is a very important part of the ritual. They also do fasting. They consume sargi, which is prepared by their mother in law, and then they fast throughout the day. Women do not even drink a drop of water during the entire day, which can last from dawn to moonrise. During the day, they engage in spiritual activities, listen to the Karwa Chauth Katha, the story. And the most important part is the moon worship. Women wait eagerly for the moon to rise. I've attached a photo here. Okay. The moon is very important because once the moon is visible in the sky, the women performs a small puja prayer for the moon. They look at the moon through the sea, which is symbolic of filtering out negativity and ensuring positivity for their married life. After the moon is sighted, the women offer their prayers and pour water and milk into the karwa as an offering to the moon. In many families, the karwa or the earthen pot is used as a ritual in gifting the women to her mother in law or other family members. So, we are at the end of our third lecture of the sixth module. I have attempted, as I have attempted earlier also, to give you a knowledge or an idea about the dominant rituals and rites happening in the parts of India. Thank you and see you again.